Well, so this is Baruch Flashman, and once again we are looking at the maps in regards to the travels of a man by the name of David Reuveni. Oh, that's why I had this, because it says on this, the travels of David Reuveni in the 16th century. Now you talk about 500-600 years ago, the Jews never stopped. It's very interesting. Now, here are the travels. It really starts down here, and there's a number 1, and it didn't get copied. But you see here that he is in the southern part of Africa. This was at that time, Nubia was like, say, Ethiopia, or moved into Ethiopia. These are black people here. So, number 2 says that he traveled the Nile. This is David Reuveni's. He's a traveler. He meets Avraham Castro in a place in Cairo. Now, I think we may have dealt with Avraham Castro before, but I don't remember. He's apparently a great scholar. And he went into Jerusalem. He came back through Gaza. He made his way over to northern Africa, like Alexandria, and he started going north. Now let's find number 4 and see if we can get number 4. Okay, let me get down here. So we can look at it and we can see number 4, in the year 1523, he arrived in Venice. In the year 1524, he meets, where is he here? In Rome. He's in Rome. He came all of these travelings, all the different places that he went, and he spoke to people and he understood the politics. And he said 1524, meets with Cardinal Egidio. So let's try to pronounce it. His name is Egidio da Viterbo, who aids him to meet Pope Clement VII, because he's coming and he's selling this idea that we're going to be in a war. We have these really vicious soldiers in this place called Habor. We're going to get them all together with the Ethiopians. And how he got these ideas and what it was like Ethiopia was like 500 or 600 years ago. It ain't great now. So what could have been like? But at any rate, he meets Pope Clement VII, proposes a treaty with him against the Turks. He says that's what to do. We got to fight the Turks. Now let's see over here. So he travels from Rome. Apparently in 1525, he arrives in Portugal. Now all of these are travels along I'm sure I show it to you, but it's hard to get the whole thing on the paper. So he said 1520, no, it's still not the right place. He said, but you see, he came through Livorno, traveled over to this place called Altea, which is on the coast of Spain. He went to the place called Cartagena, Lorco, Almeria. These are all different stops along the ports that take you to Portugal. And he came to Tavira, Lagos. So these are all the different names that we see. And here's Lisbon. So in 1525, we say he arrives in Portugal, receives from the king official safe conduct. You have to understand, a Jew, he's a guy, a circumcised Jew, riding around in Christian Portugal, place with an inquisition. He's safe conduct, acknowledging his ambassadorial status. Number 7. In other words, he had an ambassador's pass. He's not anybody. He's a mouth with legs that walk and travel. During travels, attracts many conversos. So this is what happens. Here's a Jew coming and standing right in front of the people who forced them to convert into Christianity. And that's the reason why, if it's on YouTube, there how many Spaniards and Portuguese have Jewish blood. It's not a question of Jewish blood, it's a question of Jewish souls. During travels, attracts many conversos, maintains contact with North African Jews. Let's find number 8. Here's number 8. In the year 1527, he was expelled from Portugal, arrested aboard ship off the coast of Spain, released at the behest of Charles V, because he's still writing his ambassadorial part. Let's see if we can find number 9 and see if it's useful. So all I can say is that November sometime over, whoop, can't see it. Oh, well, I got this behind it. It'll make it any easier. So here we find him up the Danube, Regensburg, Germany, Holy Roman Empire. Goes all the way through all of this. Number 10, in the summer of 1532, Ruveni and Molcho meet with Joseph of Rosheim and Charles V. Both of them are arrested and sent to, what's the name of this place? Mantua, where Molcho is martyred at the stake, burnt to death. That's what happens. Is there a number 11? This was so very interesting. So we see these are the travels of Reb David Molcho. Now after this, the next one that he has is in regard to the movement, the emigrations of conversos from Portugal, 16th and 17th centuries. Now, Agueda also, that name that somebody threw at me, but I think it's just mispronounced, Aguada or Aguado. I think they just mispronounced it. But it also is a Portugal's name. There's a Portuguese name, and it's, I don't know how they pronounce it. In Spanish, it's pronounced Águeda. In Portuguese, it's Agueda. Agueda is a province of Portugal. So exactly how that goes, what happened is that 70% of the Jews who fled Spain in the year 1492 did not go to North Africa like people think, because North Africans had just lost the war to the Spaniards. So bringing more Spaniards into their country was not a great time. Instead, they went to Portugal, where they lived in horrible conditions, which you can imagine a refugee camp where nobody cares. And the position many Jews went back to Spain. They had, within 3 years, you could go back to Spain as long as you take your crucifix along with you. And these are conversos. And they're not happy about what's going on. The King of Portugal offers them a lifeline. He said there are many ports, like Porto here and Lisboa and all these different places. He said there were many ports, and they go down to the ports, and they're going to have ships waiting for them, and they're going to take them to islands off of the coast of Africa. So there should not be a corrupting influence on Christian Portugal. But instead, what they did was they got all the Jews there, and they anointed them all with holy water, meaning that they were, at that time, no longer Jews. They were to become Christians. They were already forced to take on Christianity. They tricked them. They were all now Catholic. That means when you go home, and instead of the kissing the mezuzah when you go into the house, you have to have a crucifix there. And the priest will come and visit you, and hopefully you'll serve pig meat. Now, the thing about this is that immediately it's very, very tragic. These people are all now Catholics. They're called New Catholics. And the old Catholics and the New Catholics, well, they know who each other were. Nobody married Jews. And they wound up being in a society of people called conversos, but they could go to university. And we look this today. We have a phenomenon where, really a large majority of the Jews know very, very little at all about Judaism. They just don't know. Why? Because it was given up a generation ago. When the next generation comes, you don't know how to read Hebrew. And that's what happened here. But it's more serious here. Because here, you couldn't even pretend to say something or keep a book of the Talmud in your house. God forbid. You wind up in an Inquisition prison, which means torture and death, burning at the stake. So when you look and you see the attitudes of the Spaniards today against Israel and the Jews, it's not something new, not something just popped up. So what happened was that all of these people now, is a big mass of them, they have the rights of other Portuguese. So they go to universities, they become doctors, they become traders. Portugal has got a big trading deal going on. Look at that coast. They're in all over the world. And people make a lot of money. Some of them get out. And that's why he has this. It says some conversos cross the Pyrenees, aided by guides. We're going to see that in the next year. Aided by guides, some leave by ports of Santander and San Sebastian. Now, what's this all about? Where are you going? France is Catholic. And all of Europe at that time. This is, I don't know whether exactly when Martin Luther came along, but in this time, this period of time, the Catholic Church was fighting everybody. And they were dominating everything. There was only one place you could go. There was a free state called Amsterdam or Holland. Holland was really divided. One part was Spanish. That's how powerful the Spaniards were. The Spaniards controlled Sicily. Eventually they gained control of Napoli, the southern part of Spain, southern part of Italy, the boot. And they dominated. There were no Jews allowed. So here you have the conversos, but they long to be Jewish. So it turns out that there was a port in Amsterdam, and they went there. Not only did they go there, but also the church went there. The church, described as Jews or disguised as Jews, went to the big synagogue, which is called the Spanish-Portuguese synagogue, because they're really Spanish people who came from Portugal and maybe spoke Portuguese, but they knew Spanish as well. And they picked people off. If they saw you there, you had family back in Spain or Portugal. Could you imagine? So very dangerous to go there, but people needed, and they went to Amsterdam. Now, once you're in Amsterdam, you're on the Baltic, right next to the Baltic. At this time, I think that the English did not allow Jews. That's a lovely group of people in Europe. And they didn't allow Jews. And so they could go to another free city, which was called Hamburg, another trading city in the Baltic. And then, unfortunately, the church was in Hamburg too. So people went further east. And this is the basis, in my opinion, of the Lithuanian Jewish community, which is Lithuania and Latvia, northern part of Poland, what we call Poland, but this is all Lithuania at that time. And there we found a place where the people were so backward that they didn't really know what was going on. They eventually got around to anti-Semitism too. There was a church over there. It was a Roman Catholic church rather than the Russian church. But at any rate, this is a little history of the Jewish people. We have to understand that what we're going through now, in terms of our physical lives, is nothing new. The phrase in Hebrew is Esav Sonei Yaakov. Esav hates Yaakov. Yaakov has all the blessings. And we do, in fact. We have all the blessings. But the majority of the people that have the big guns, they belong to our brother. To make it interesting, the rabbis say that in the end, Edom, the Edomites, the Roman Church, the Eastern Church will all disappear. Now, how that happens, I don't know, because they're in power right now. And they got the big guns and the big ships and so on and so forth. And this is who they are. And this is a tremendous influence, a negative influence. The Europeans will never like Israel. The Americans, we're waiting to see. This is Baruch Fleischman. It's been a little bit editorial here on we just got into the emigration of conversos from Portugal. And look, we have a little better map here. Maybe we can work this map. There is, let's see, that's it. Let's take a look at this. Let's find number 1. There's number 2. Here's number 1. Now, one of the things that happened, besides going to Portugal, which we described, what happened in Portugal, I mean, it's just a tremendous hate. And you see it every place. But they're a little bit more, let's say, roundabout about it, most of them. This is the route, he says, number 1, and these are the sea routes. taken by early converso emigrants. This is a sea right that we said that 30% of those who fled Spain as a result of the decree, that 30% of those people went a different direction. They didn't go to Portugal. So this is the route that they took. They went to the Mediterranean. They went to Rome. The sea voyage was terrible. They were held by ransom many times. It's very, very difficult. So anyway, and they're going here to North Africa. That was number one. Here's number two. It goes to the different map. Let's take a look at Spain over here, and here's number two. In the year 1499, 1502, Messianic movement headed by two prophetesses. One is called Marima Gomez. In Spain, they pronounce it Gomez, of Gilón, and Inez of Herrera. Now, there's a lot of people by the name of Herrera, so there must be a place there somewhere. And he shows us on the map, here's Herrera. It's in sort of like, well, pretty centralized part of southern Spain. It's in the northern part of southern Spain. And here's Gilón. Now, maybe it's pronounced Chillon. I don't know how you pronounce it. I just see it there in English. And he says, Gilón, and these two predict imminent appearance of Elijah and the Messiah, who would take believers to the Holy Land. So this is going on at this time. Where's number three? We got a number three here? Here's number three. See if we could do anything with this number three. In 1520, and this is where he shows us in Antwerp. So here's Rotterdam, Amsterdam, which we said before was a free city, and you could worship as you want. Then there's this other route that goes to Hamburg, and if it goes further east, it winds up in the ports of Latvia and Lithuania. In the year 1520, conversos set in the city. Which city? That's Antwerp. Establishing banks, because this is what we did in medieval Europe, and banks and businesses after Belgium's annexation to Germany in the year 1529. Conversos were forbidden to enter the city. Those already in residence were expelled. So he says in 1520 we went, this is just the old story. We went, we made businesses, we had banks, we were making money, we were surviving, we were building Yiddishkeit, which is what we need to do. But in 1529, conversos were all thrown out. So he says, and there's a number four. Where's number four? Looking around, looking for number four, and if number four could be off the page. I don't see a four. Here's 2, 6, 4. Okay, here we go back. In the year 1601-02, Philip III, must be the king of Portugal here in Lisbon, receives 200,000 ducats, that's big money, from conversos, allows them to leave the country. So where do they go? So he said to colonies in Latin America, to Italy and Turkey. This is where those Jews from Lisbon were able to go because of the 200,000 ducats. Now you have to understand that what happened here is that when they went to the colonies in Latin America, in some of them, particularly Mexico and Peru, where there were large settlements, brought the Inquisition along with them. Not easy to be a Jew, to believe in God and to want to serve Him. But we don't live forever. Number 5. In the year of November, 1632, he says that the 3rd of November in 1630, conversos leave. They actually left. Now let me see, he says, where is the arrow? There's always an arrow. This arrow goes right here. So he says, custom officials search emigrants to prevent smuggling of gold and silver and record their destinations. Here is number 6. Leaving by sea is more difficult and necessitates coming to terms with sea captains. Ship meticulously searched. So they paid off the 200,000 ducat. This is gold coins. And they managed to leave the country, but they were meticulously searched that they shouldn't have any money with them. Then they go poor. Can you believe that to serve our God, this is what we need to do? Number 7. Let's find number 7. Now, in Madrid, Spain. He says, conversos. Now, you have to understand, just like I told you that story about this town called Guaita, which today is called Huete. So you see how languages change and so on and so forth. This place, Guaita, where in 1391 there were 20,000 Jews, and in 1392 there were none. They were all Catholics. This means there's a lot of conversos around, and they're mixed into the population. And remember this also, 100% of the Jews did not leave. Most of them stayed in Spain. They became conversos. So I speak Spanish, so I'm talking to people who are working in different things. I was in construction work or whatever. And they'll tell you, I have Jewish relatives. They're Spanish people. They have Jewish relatives. And when you meet Cubans like Marco Rubio and people like that, they have a very strong sympathy for Jews. Very interesting. Conversos meet in Madrid and leave in small groups. Taken along, they go along the King's Highway to Pamplona. Now here is Pamplona. Apparently it's on this. We know it because there's a bull run. Something happens in Pamplona, Spain. First they went to this place called Burgos, and then they went to San Sebastian. Apparently it's on the coast, and then ultimately to Pamplona. Now there's a 9 here somewhere, but I can't find it. It's cut off. Well, that's something about the immigration of conversos from Portugal. Because remember what happened in Portugal. They forcibly converted the entire Jewish population, which was 70% of those, according to Rabbi Wein, Beryl Wein. 70% of the Jews that left Spain went to Portugal, where they were all forcibly converted into Christianity, and many stayed, of course. But those who had the ability got out. They got out. They went to Amsterdam. Also, they were followed by the church in Amsterdam and in Hamburg. But you eventually got to Lithuania. The church was very, very weak at that point. And you had this pileup of scholars that came into that place. And that's why the Lithuanian Jews amongst the Ashkenaz are considered to be such tremendous scholars. This is Baruch Fleischman, and you've been listening to more of Haim Beinhart, The History of the Jews in Europe and Our Survival.